Okay, 2 things. First, I apologize in advance for any typos or odd phrasing. It's quite difficult to keep focused in my current state, and my keyboard is very sticky. Secondly, as you listen to the story, you might find yourself thinking, hey, maybe talking about your intrusive thoughts isn't the best way to handle them. Maybe try distracting yourself. Maybe just don't think about it. And I would totally agree with you if these were simply intrusive thoughts. But I don't think these are simply intrusive thoughts. I think I've been cursed. But I don't believe in curses, I hear you say. Well, neither do I. But it's just about the only explanation I have for what has happened. It's either a curse or I have tasted ice cream so good that it broke me. I don't know which option scares me more. It was 3 a.m. and I was hammered out of my mind, trying to stagger my way back home. All in all, it was a good evening. The drinks were cheap and conversations were plentiful. The only thing that I needed to finish off the night was a nice kebab to line my stomach with in order to spare myself a hangover in the morning. As I stumbled through the sleepy streets of Prague, it seemed as if all of my usual drunk dine-in spots were closed. There was no way that I could stay conscious long enough to get food delivered. It started to look like I would have to go to bed on a diet of crackers and water. But as I made my way through the park outside of my apartment, I found an answer to my hungry plea. The shine of the lamppost gave him a sort of aura. It was as if the universe had heard my pleas for a treat and placed an ice cream peddler in my path. He stood in the middle of the empty park with his rickety cart, a grin peeking out from beneath his bushy, Nietzsche-esque mustache. "Would you like some ice cream, young man?" he asked. "Fuck yeah!" I yelled with an energy only Long Islands can induce. "Which flavor would you like?" He gestured towards his cart. There seemed to be a good dozen flavors, all neatly marked with cursive handwriting. I was entirely too drunk to read. "The best flavor!" I demanded. "The best flavor?" "Yeah, give me the best you got!" My sight was spinning with booze-induced inertia, but even through my stupor, I could see a glint in his eye. The triple vision of the ice cream man united into one, his mustache raised to reveal pearly teeth. "There's a special recipe I keep saved for only the most exquisite of customers. Are you sure you can handle it?" "Fuck yeah! I'm a golden god of a customer!" I yelled, because that's the type of drunk I am. He nodded, adjusted his hat, and opened up a wooden cabinet on his ice cream cart, from which he took out a strange little machine. My memory is pretty patchy, but I distinctly remember looking at it and thinking, this is some past century shit. There's a good chance I might have said it out loud as well. The machine started up with a sputter. It looked like a cross between a steam engine and a sausage maker. The ice cream man reached into his cart and produced ingredients that he started to load into the machine. "It's an old family recipe that has been passed down over generations. My great-grandfather, blah blah, blah 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 blah." In retrospect, I should have listened to what he had to say. Perhaps if I had heard his story, I could have avoided my present situation altogether. Maybe his monologue contained clues as to where I could find him, or could shed some light on what the hell was in that ice cream. Or better yet, his monologue might have contained the actual recipe. I'll never know. I'll never know because my drunken ass spent the whole story giggling. As soon as the ice cream man mentioned his family, I couldn't help but to imagine a dinner table filled with bushy mustaches. The ice cream man would sit at the head of the table, twirling his mustache. Next to him would be his wife, also twirling her equally bushy mustache, and on the other side of the table would be the kids, pinching at their fledgling facial hair. The food would arrive, a mess would be made. "Honey, I think there's some leftovers stuck in your mustache. Thanks. You too. Classic fucking comedy. Here you go. He brought me out of my booze-induced hallucination of a hairy family with a cone of soft-serve ice cream. Just be sure to appreciate the gentle notes of the flavor. You will never taste something like this again. I wanted to pay him, but he insisted that he wasn't making ice cream for money. He was providing the treat purely out of the goodness of his heart and dedication to his craft. I shrugged and stumbled over to my apartment. I swallowed the entire cone in 2 bites and then passed the fuck out. In my teens, I could run a distillery in my mouth, drink enough mixer to give myself type 2 diabetes, and smoke 1,000,000 cigarettes, only to wake up with a mild hangover. That time has passed a decade ago. When I woke up the morning after my encounter with the ice cream man, I grabbed my water bottle and promptly ran over to the bathroom to empty out my stomach. My brain felt bruised. My eyes stung from the smoky conversations of the night prior. The hangover was definitely there, but something was different. Instead of tasting the battery acid of last night's consumption, all I could feel on my tongue was a faint taste of vanilla. I shrugged it off. I figured that the ice cream I had last night was just really good. I made a mental note to seek out a strange ice cream man in the future and discarded the thought. I spent the rest of the morning drinking water and puking. I would kill a dozen small mammals to be able to be the person I was in that bathroom. Hungover as all hell, but still capable. A thought that doesn't revolve around frozen goods. The fact that I was able to let go of the ice cream thoughts still gives me some hope for the future. Yet that hope is buried beneath an impenetrable layer of perfectly creamy vanilla. Betty came over just as my body started becoming receptive to water. She laughed, gave me shit about being bad at holding my liquor, and then we made love. Mind you, at this point, Betty and me had been a thing for a month. This was a height of passion bang. This was, could I possibly be dating my wife sex? Yet as our sweaty bodies writhed with adoration, I found my mind drifting. Past excited declarations of love and the pleasure of being touched was something else. Something frozen and giant. Something made of the sweetest milk and the softest petals. "What you thinking about?" she asked, as we lay in a cuddled post-coital glow. "Ice cream." I felt her shift under my arm. She did not like that answer. "What are you thinking about?" I asked. "That this is a nice way to spend a Saturday afternoon. That I'm happy we met each other and... ice cream now." There was disappointment in her voice. I searched for something sweet to say, but the only sweetness that I could think of was soft-served and came in a cone. "Wanna go get some?" "Some ice cream?" "Yeah." Sure." We went to 3 different places. I kept on hoping that I would come across something, anything, that would satiate my craving for vanilla ice cream, but every ice cream parlor we went to was filled with frozen disappointment. Every lick was drenched in preservatives and mold and defeat. When I tasted the 3rd cone, the one that came from the best ice cream parlor in Central Europe, I gagged. "What's wrong?" Betty asked. She wasn't asking about the ice cream. I tried to explain. I tried to describe the mustachioed ice cream peddler, how drunk I was, his story, the taste, the craving, but the words came out sluggish and disoriented. I kept on searching for ways to describe what had happened to me, the longing that I was feeling deep in my chest, yet all I was met with was her confused gaze. It was as if my ability to speak was a McDonald's ice cream machine, perpetually defective. "Look, if something is up, let's talk about it. We're not children. We can communicate. Communication is blah blah. Blah blah. I could see her lips move. I heard her voice. But my mind was utterly consumed with the thought of that gentle nectar. She talked about a past relationship, or her parents' relationship, or some pop psych advice. I don't know, I wasn't listening. All that was on my mind was a mental map of every ice cream parlor in Prague. As the mental fog of my hangover dissipated, my craving for the ice cream strengthened into a palpable ache. There was a burning hole in my chest, the type of hole that people fill with love or God or money or ambition, but I knew that there was only one thing that could satiate me. And it wasn't Betty. We made plans to meet up the next weekend. I watched the woman that I had cared about so deeply just that morning get on the bus and ride away. For a second, there was a pang of guilt. I wanted to run after the bus and demand it to stop. I wanted to jump on board and take her in my arms and tell her that she was the most important thing in my life, but a delicious, viscous cream washed that feeling of guilt away. 7 other ice cream parlors. I visited 7 other ice cream parlors and found nothing but frustration. My teeth hurt. Partially from consuming massive amounts of vanilla ice cream, but mainly because of the way that my jaw would clench whenever I was faced with inevitable disappointment. The streets were dark. All the ice cream parlors were shut, so I went to the supermarket. As I pushed my cart through the ice cream aisle, grabbing every box that contained that ambrosial flavor, I found myself desperately clawing at the roof of my mouth with my tongue. Somewhere in the back of my one-track mind, I was trying to dig past the remnants of the imposter flavors towards the one true holy syrup. A trace of it still had to be there. It was, after all, less than 24 hours since I had tasted the ice cream. I had mouth hangovers that lasted twice that long. Even a singular atom of it on my tongue could make me feel whole. It's with that thought that I stopped. I stared into the pile of ice cream in my cart and entertained the thought that was only remotely related to ice cream. This is fucking insane. I had spent an afternoon driving away someone who made me happy. I had done enough damage to my teeth to make a dentist blush. There was enough ice cream in my cart to pay for a dinner at a fancy restaurant. Yet, as I looked into the cart, a chill ran down my spine. Something inside of me grabbed all notion of guilt or fear, tore at those neural connections and pointed them at a single thought. I needed to taste that fucking ice cream again. The taste. That's what I needed. I needed to replicate the taste. It was all insane. It was all so desperately frightening, but my mind didn't let the emotions get to me. My thoughts were loud and clear. Milk, eggs, vanilla extract, cream, get whatever you need to replicate the taste. You need this. I piled more and more into my cart. I followed what my heart demanded, but somewhere in the back of my frozen treat-focused brain was a small fire of hope. A hope that if the taste was replicated, the madness would subside. I can't imagine what she felt. Literally, I cannot imagine what she had felt because of my diminished mental capacity. But even in a figurative sense, what she saw must have been hard. She rang the buzzer downstairs. It's a miracle I even heard it by then. I was deep into tasting the disgusting store-bought facsimiles, trying to pinpoint where their tastes diverged from the godly original. But the buzzer, it broke my concentration. I swallowed the warm, milky substance on my tongue and picked up the receiver. Her voice came through. There was warmth in her words, but my brain went numb when I tried to grasp what she was saying.
Hey, can blah 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 come upstairs? I just blah 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 don't feel good about it. Blah blah talk blah 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 upstairs.
The iceberg of deliciousness towered in the cold seas of my soul. I didn't want to see her, she would just slow me down. Yet before I knew it, my finger was buzzing her through. I don't remember what she saw. If the amount of melted ice cream on my hands right now is of any indication, she saw enough to lose any semblance of attraction towards me. She said something, maybe a couple sentences, but they were hollow. She had lost all hope in me ever being normal. All she did was hand me 2 vanilla ice creams she had grabbed from the corner store downstairs. "I don't need to. Take the other one," I heard myself say. I don't feel like eating ice cream right now. I can't imagine how she felt. I have spent the whole night without sleep, and I don't think sleep will come anytime soon. My entire home smells strongly of vanilla extract. The kitchen, the bedroom, everything is covered in traces of my misadventures with trying to capture the taste of that cursed ice cream. Because this has to be a curse, right? I have walked through the park. I have stared out of the window at the exact spot where he stood as I slaved away at making my homemade atrocity. But the ice cream man is nowhere to be found. What if the story he told me was filled with hints, or there was some stupid fucking riddle at the end? What if I completely missed my chance to taste that ice cream ever again? I bet you he's some goddamn ghost. And I offended his sensibilities. This is definitely a curse. As soft and sweet as that taste I crave is, I know that somewhere beneath those gentle notes of vanilla is something evil. I know that I will crave this taste until the end of my days, and I know that any chance at ever locating the mustachioed man or anyone from his mustachioed family is slim. I thought that maybe sharing this tale will help me forget. But writing about that heavenly taste has simply made me weep on my keyboard. But if writing my story will not give me solace, then perhaps I can at least deliver a message. If you see a man selling ice cream in the middle of the night, call me.